Welcome to the Global Gaming Business Podcast, the industry's first and longest running podcast, now in our 17th year. I'm Roger Gross, the publisher of GGB, and this week we sit down with Leighton Webb, the Vice President for iGaming and Sports Betting for the payment company PayNearMe, on the diversity of his company's products in the payments arena. This week's podcast is sponsored by IGT. As the digital transformation continues in our industry and beyond, find out how your business can benefit from delivering a seamless, cashless experience to your players across the enterprise. Learn more about IGT's Resort Wallet at igt.com/cashless. Welcome to the Global Gaming Business Podcast. My guest today is Leighton Webb, the Vice President of iGaming and Sports Betting for PayNearMe. Thanks for joining us today, Leighton. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Looking forward to the conversation as well.
So I have to confess, I was one of your first clients early on in New Jersey when we passed sports betting back in 2013. I was pretty clueless when it came to online banking and all that kind of online transactions. And I thought, well, I can go down to my 7-Eleven and put $100 in there, and that's what I did. So it made it easy for me. But unfortunately, I think it's still very difficult for people to fund their accounts online. I just had a problem last week. I'm on the Arizona border here in Nevada, so I went across the border to open an account at one of the new sports books in Arizona, and I couldn't fund it because who knows why? Their help people were not very helpful. So. Do you think that's a big problem right now, still in online gaming and sports betting?
I do. And I think the way I always describe it is in kind of the early days and you have early adopters, those people will tend to go through the hoops and make a successful deposit. But as the industry continues to move to a broader audience, that audience, I would argue, is less forgiving, and they still run into those same experiences. They're on an app, they can't make a deposit for whatever reason. Their card is declined, the app crashes, or they just can't figure out how to navigate through the various choices to make a successful deposit. So absolutely, it's still an issue.
Yeah, it's very difficult, and I can't believe that there's not more clarity when it comes to that now. So let's go back to PayNearMe. As I said, I found it very simple back in the old days, but I know you've expanded way beyond just going to your local 7-Eleven and making a deposit. Why don't you give us a little history of the company and what you do now?
Yeah, definitely. So we started off in the, prior to 2013 in the payments industry. So we have a long history and a lot of experience processing money on the payment side. Then we started off, as you noted, with our cash product in 2013 with the legalization of iGaming in New Jersey. And then if you fast forward to where we are today in our Moneyline platform, we've expanded into electronic payments, and we can go into some more details you'd like about that. But it's, I describe Moneyline, it's an end-to-end payments platform and gateway. So what it does for the operator is it's through one integration through us, we are their payments gateway and platform to allow them to be able to access every major tender type, including cash, and then to have some of the robust analytics and insights that they need to be able to improve that payments experience to their users.
Sure. So that sounds like it's different than most of the other payment platforms online. Can you tell me how different it is and how it's easier to access?
Sure. They tend to specialize in one or a handful of different tender types, and they really specialize kind of in that core area. So our approach was we want to be that one-stop shop, that one integration. So it does a couple of things. So from an operator perspective, from a technology perspective, they have one integration, kind of one API integration to us. So if you think about an operator and you sit back and it's, okay, I'm the operator and I'm managing, 6-7 different direct integrations, 6-7 different contracts, partners, reconciliations, that becomes very complex for them, even for the large operators. And they're starting to realize that now. So we really help alleviate that for them to simplify that integration and make it easier for them to manage their payment stack, so they can really go back to focusing on their core product and making that better for their user.
Sure, and I think that user experience is certainly crucial. As I said, when I go into these places and my credit card is declined, I know my credit card is fine, but they don't even tell you that they don't accept it because of the federal law, which is still in place. So how can you make that? Are there technologies available to make it easier and make it more seamless for the user?
There definitely are. The way I think of it is, it's about the detail. It's attention to the detail and really making sure that it's pixel perfect in terms of
Right.
that experience, not just when the app, but the payment experience. So, just a little bit about my background. So I started off in Web 1.0 with America Online, and we were really great at making that experience of getting people online, just simple. It just works and it's easy to do. And so there were a lot of lessons learned there for me as I kind of fast forward to today, looking at the payments experience and that experience for the user. It has to be pixel perfect every step of the way. So there is no kind of, here's one thing that you do and it's going to solve all of your problems. You really have to look at it holistically and make sure that you're paying attention to that detail. There's still examples. I was just on a large operators app the other day here in New York, and I'm in the payment flow. And when I back out of the payment flow, the app crashes.
Yeah.
And so kind of to your point, I think the consumer is, because there's a lot of things that we do in a given day. We're using a lot of different apps on our phone. They're not very forgiving, especially when you go to that kind of mass market consumer moving, beyond the early adopter. And so the operators have to realize that, obviously they're spending a lot of money to get these players to the app, to download the app, go through the KYC, start the payment process. If they have the experience such as the one that you described, they're going to leave. They're going to go to a competitor, and they're likely not going to come back. And so it's just critical that the operator continues to, again, pay attention to that detail. What's not working? If I enter in a card number, it declines. Why did it decline? What other payment types do you have to kind of get me through that process and just make it super simple and easy for the user? So with our platform, we have tools to be able to do that, to really improve that conversion through the payment funnel to get through to that successful deposit.
Sure. Can you give me some specifics on some of the new things that are going on, the tender acceptance,
sure,
omni-channel, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, totally. So you started off talking about cash. One new product, new feature that we have is called cardless cash at ATM. And that pairs very well with what I call our cash in product, our core cash in product at retail. And so what that is simply is a user can withdraw money at an ATM without a card. So cardless cash at ATM. Okay. So they go into the app, they initiate the withdrawal. Let's say I withdraw $500. I then go down to the ATM in the participating network, and I can make that withdrawal. Okay. So that's a new product that we just launched here, and we're very excited about.
So that sounds like it has applications for land-based gaming as well.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, some of the discussions we're having are around extending that into land-based gaming and into the casino footprint, putting ATMs in those locations so players could go in and withdraw that money. And it's really interesting. Just another thought on that is, in talking about cash, is there's still a segment of the audience that wants to transact in cash, whether it's the anonymity of it, the immediacy of it, and because of that, we're getting a lot of positive response from operators. They see that as well, to really mirror very well with that cash in product.
Sure, no question about that. So how can payments kind of help iGaming operators and sportsbook operators attract new customers? I mean, obviously if you do it easily, that's got to be a plus, but can you actually make that one of your bedrocks, to draw people in?
Yeah, definitely. I think there are a few different fundamentals you need to keep in mind. One is you need to provide choice to the player. So players want to be able to use a tender type that they're familiar with. Is it PayPal? Is it online banking? Is it cards? And so you want to make sure you kind of cover that. Key part here, though, is you also on the disbursement side, the withdrawal side, make sure you have that same selection of tender types. Because the experience isn't just putting the money in. The other part of it is getting money out as it goes to positive experience and lifetime value. So being able to offer a variety of tender types is very important. And as part of that, tender types that people are used to using. So brand trust. So the players are, can I trust this transaction? Can I trust, whatever entity that is to make that transaction, that it's secure, that it's actually the money is going to move into my account. So I think those two core fundamentals are extremely important. And I would, it's kind of looking at the landscape today, there are a lot of operators, a lot of tier ones that they have gaps. They have gaps in that payment experience. And then kind of back to what I was saying, it's, every step of it just has to be perfect. It can't be confusing. It's got to be consistent. And, a lot of it is around that blocking and tackling. And so with the Moneyline platform, we help to simplify that, and we make it easier and consistent for the operator to be able to do that.
Right. Can you walk us through that Moneyline process, how somebody establishes an account and funds it?
Yeah. So, think of Moneyline Moneyline is the platform. It is integrated into the operator app. So to the user, they have no idea who we are or the fact that it's, a separate entity that's providing that. So the API is an integration into the operator's app that creates a seamless experience within the overall application. Where it simplifies it is really on the operator side in terms of, as I said earlier, that one integration. So the reason that's important is when an operator integrates with us and we add a new feature, we add a new tender type, they don't have to do an additional integration. They can simply do a configuration change to make that feature, that tender type, available to them. So what that does is it, in some ways, future-proofs their offering. So let's say that, because they all have, very full product roadmaps, there are a lot of things that they want to do, not just on the payment side. And so by streamlining that for them, making it easier to stay current, meaning a new tender that we offer that they want to make available to their user, they can turn that on. They can enable that very, very quickly through our platform, as opposed to each time a new tender becomes available, having to do that direct integration and complete that on their own.
Okay. So it sounds like for those of us who are not very tech savvy as myself, it sounds like just you update an app and boom, there it is, right?
Yeah, it's a JavaScript library. I mean, just to get a little bit more technical, but think of it as a library of choices. It's a JavaScript library where the user can literally, the user being the operator, can literally go in and configure through, in some cases it's, they're it's not this simple, but checkboxes to say, turn this on, turn that off, to really streamline that process. So we, kind of the way to think of it is these payment stacks, as we call them. So, platform, they become very cumbersome and complex. And so we just simplify all that. We just take all that off the table, kind of that one integration to make it very, very simple for them, not only to manage, but to future-proof it. And by future-proofing it, I mean, as I was saying, a new tender, a new piece of functionality becomes available, that they have that immediately to offer to their players.
Okay, great. Give your players a convenient cashless gaming experience with IGT's Resort Wallet. Whether using a Players Club card or a mobile phone app, players will love the simplicity of transferring money from their cashless accounts to their favorite games. When they're done playing, funds are transferred back to the player's account. No more waiting in line at ATMs and no more waiting for service when a ticket printer or bill validator fails. And with IGT Pay, players can fund their cashless accounts from multiple external sources, including debit cards, credit cards, e-wallets, and more. It's simple, it's modern, and it's safe. Learn more about IGT's cashless systems at igt.com/cashless. So when you approach a new operator, and there's always new operators in this business. I just saw another one open in Pennsylvania today. What are some of your pitches when you say you should add payment to PayNearMe to your menu of payment options?
Yeah, so it depends on the operator. But in that example, so if you think of that operator, they're coming to market, they're new, they have a lot that they have to do. Regulatory approval, just getting a product off the ground. And so, we go to them and say, we can offer you, bleeding edge payment solution that you can bring to market in less time, faster, that's actually going to make it easier for you from a, kind of an engineering standpoint to bring that to market. You're not going to have to go out and do multiple integrations, multiple direct integrations, and take that on yourself. You're going to offer that to us, and we're going to make your lives easier from that capacity. And I would say that, the smaller ones like that, the smaller ones such as that, that's extremely important to them, because in many cases, they're just overwhelmed with the complexity of bringing a product to market. Sure. And so we come in and say, okay, we can offer this end-to-end solution. And the distinction there is not just saying, okay, we can offer card processing or we can offer PayPal, Venmo. Yes, we can do that. But when they see some of the kind of more complete features, I talked about insights and analytics. They love that, because that really adds value above and beyond just processing tenders. And so that's how we bring it to them.
Sure. Well, we've all seen the soaring customer acquisition cost. In New York sports betting, I think, what was it? FanDuel, put $1.3 billion into marketing costs to get $1 billion in revenue, and that's obviously not sustainable. So, how can the payment process kind of reduce those acquisition costs?
Yeah, it's an exorbitant amount of money that's being spent. So they probably know something that we don't in terms of why they're spending that amount of money. But if you think about the drop off, so someone goes in to initiate a deposit. So let me back up. The acquisition cost is measured at the point at which the user makes a successful deposit. Right. So the more people you get to make a successful deposit, your acquisition cost goes down.
Right.
So if you really look at that funnel, the funnel meaning every single step that the user takes to make that successful deposit, how can you decrease that drop off? How can you get more people through that funnel? So it's everything from the tender type that I want to use is there. Entering in those details is easy. It makes sense. The payment is successful, and those funds appear immediately within my wallet. So that's why I was saying earlier, to go back to Pixel Perfect, every single step that they can take, everything that they can do to improve that process is going to lower their acquisition cost. So it's really about, yes, there's the technology component of it, but it's really about having the tools to enable that pixel perfect goal within that payment flow. And so with the Moneyline platform, we give them the tools to be able to do that. We give them the ability, as I was saying earlier, to be able to do that integration, offer the tender types, create that consistent cashier experience with the goal of driving down that customer acquisition cost. And then I'll just add the other piece to that is the lifetime value. So yes, getting deposits, that's important, but we also want to make sure that when a user or player goes to withdraw those funds, that they have a positive experience. Because many of the folks will come in, they're coming in through an aggressive bonusing scheme. They bet, they win, they try to withdraw the money, and it doesn't appear in their account for several days. They don't know why, they're confused, and they maybe go to a competitor site, a competitor app. So both sides of the equation are extremely important.
Yeah, and I can attest to that. As in Nevada, obviously we just have mobile sports betting, but I was given an early account by Vic Salerno when he was running American Wagering, and they had their first mobile account here, and they've changed hands several times, and now they're with Caesars, and I still use that account more than ever, just because it's familiar, it's simple, and I know I can get my money in and out as quickly as possible.
100%. And that first mover advantage, back to the FanDuel example, it's obviously, to get that first mover advantage to provide that great experience, so that switching cost for the user becomes high, meaning once you have them, and by have them, I mean, they have a positive experience, they make the deposit, the withdrawal, they're going to stay with you over time, versus if you're an operator that perhaps you're struggling in that area, they're going to go to a different app. Because look, let's face it, you and I are on a sports book. We don't just have one sports book on our phone.
Right.
We have 4 or 5, depending on the state. And we're trying, state launches, you try different ones, you make deposits on all of them, and you end up gravitating towards the one where you have the best experience. So in many ways, it's, I would argue you have one shot at it. Yeah. And that shot has to be a positive one. And if you blow it, it's very, very difficult to get that user to come back and give you a second chance.
Right, no question. So let's talk about some of the regulatory hurdles you have. I just was reading a story about the bill to legalize sports betting in Massachusetts, where the Senate version of the bill won't even let you access a third-party wallet, to fund your account. It sounds like it's almost going to be impossible to fund that account. Well, how does that get into your strategies when you have to understand all these regulatory things?
Yeah, so obviously we're licensed in every state that offers online sports betting today. So we're covered there, and we're a licensed money transmitter in all 50 states. But in terms of the wallet, and I'm not familiar with that exact piece in the legislation, but they're likely talking about a third-party wallet. So we enable the wallet within the application. So that's not, it doesn't impact us in terms of our business and how we're going to market and working with the operators. but yeah, of course, there changes, and different states have different parameters around those guidelines. But we stay abreast of that. We work very closely with the regulators well before those operators come to market to make sure that we're able to support our partners and the operators when those states do legalize and turn on.
Okay. So what's your approach to responsible gaming? I mean, is that similar to that? You partner with your clients and your partners when it comes to your approach to that?
Yeah, so that's a great topic, and something that we take very seriously and are very passionate about. And that's really on the operator in terms of what their policies are around responsible gaming. Now, that being said, we can enable and help the operator to glean insight into payment behavior to make the decisions they want to make around responsible gaming.
Sure.
But I think where this, as an industry, just to talk a little bit about the industry and responsible gaming, the operators are trying to get ahead of it, and some take it very seriously. Mm-hmm. I think the industry will continue to need to self-regulate in that area before it becomes a problem. Before there's a last thing we want is there's a Senate hearing about someone that had a bad experience on a gambling app. So this is an area we see as an opportunity to really provide the insight around player behavior. Because look, let's face it, a lot of people who have a problem in responsible gaming, you could argue they don't know they have a problem. So how can we help the operator identify when someone might have a problem before they do, to be able to take the action that they want to take, or communicate that to the player.
Sure. So tell us about how your analytics, again, go even beyond that, how they help the operator understand their players.
Yeah, so it's, everything from, again, you always use the payment funnel kind of as the basis point. But when you look at when a user initiates that payment, where do they drop off? Why do they drop off? Or certain tender types dropping off more than others, so you can adjust accordingly. So the first thing we provide is a holistic solution. So some operators can be challenged with that. They have multiple integrations. There's potentially different data sets. We give them one holistic view to be able to look at their complete payment stack. Then from that, they can look at patterns. Again, as I was saying, are people dropping off with one tender type over another? Why are they dropping off? Are they having trouble with the UI? Are they not understanding something in that payment flow? And so from the insights that we provide, they can adjust accordingly and make those changes.
Sure.
I always think of payments as, it's in using e-commerce as an example, it's something that you're continually refining based on that behavior, the data that you're seeing around the player. So it's really about that ongoing optimization, that continued improvement in the payments flow to bring it back to reducing that customer acquisition cost.
Great. Well, Leighton, it sounds like there's a lot going on in this field, and things are going to get simpler, hopefully, and I won't have to be turned down again at a sports book that I register with. So, really, thanks for the time. I appreciate it, and good luck with your future there with PayNearMe.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. With thanks again to IGT. Provide your players with the digital experience they expect. IGT's Resort Wallet with IGT Pay is safe, simple, and convenient. Visit IGT.com/cashless to learn more. To understand more about cashless transactions online and inside casinos and sportsbooks, visit GGBmagazine.com. Subscribe to GGB News to get all the news of the gaming industry delivered to your desktop every Monday morning. Sign up at GGBnews.com and use the coupon code GGB180 for a free subscription. Don't miss a single episode of the podcast. Subscribe on Amazon, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify today. So we'll see you next time on the GGB Podcast.